So with us talking more about pilgrimage and helping encourage others to go on pilgrimage more in their life, we want to share some travel tips and hacks that we have amassed over the years of traveling as a family. So we're going to unpack today where to stay, and I hope this is really beneficial for you, whether you're traveling with a big family or even if it's just by yourself or as a couple. If you're new here, we're Ben and Rita Johnson, and we have On Pilgrimage, which is a DIY Catholic pilgrimage business where we help break down barriers for people to go onto pilgrimage, and we design PDF guides that can help you navigate through historic areas of cities that you may have never explored before. So welcome. Ben and I have been traveling for quite a while with a lot of children in tow.
Yes.
And so we have definitely found our share of places that we know if we're like in a pinch, we need to look something up, where are we going to go? We already have narrowed down a host of different types of hotels or different resources we're going to check out first. It's going to be at the top of our list. So let's first talk about some of those hotels. What are some of those hotels, Ben, that we have stayed at that are very big family friendly?
Yeah, there's a few of the brands for each of the major hotel chains that really provide kind of a benefit for a family on the road. One of our favorite ones is the Hyatt House, which is one of the brands for Hyatt. Depending on the Hyatt House that you're at, it often has a kitchenette and one or multiple bedrooms, as well as sleeping area on a kind of living room couch area. So it sometimes can cost more, depending on whether or not you can get it for points. Is always a kind of a big deal, and that kind of goes for the other ones that we'll cover as well. But it does provide a huge benefit because of how much it provides from a sleeping perspective, and also being able to save on meals by cooking at the hotel.
Yeah, and I would say second to that, also staying with Hyatt initially, is Hyatt Place. Hyatt Place has, you can usually find 2 queens and a sofa bed, which for our family, we still have some people that are smaller, still works for the time being, and that's more of our, we flew in late, we weren't going to be able to drive where we were going to go that night, and so we've done this before where we, and we'll talk about this when we talk about travel, how we get to where we're going on a budget, but we've flown out of and into a city that was a 5-hour drive away, and so we just wanted to drive a little bit, but so we got in late, we're waking up early the next day and getting back on the road. And so Hyatt Place is really great for a fast overnight. A lot of times we are trying to book them with points, and Hyatt Place is very low in the amount of points. Usually you can actually find them for like 5,000 points a night, which is really a great bargain.
Yeah, well, one thing I would follow up with the Hyatt ones, and this is true for a lot of these, is always check to see if they have free breakfast included, because that can make a big difference on the bill as well. So certain brands within each of these major hotel chains will include a free breakfast, others will not. So it can really make a difference when you're looking at the price tag. Another chain that we go with sometimes is Marriott, and specifically Marriott's Homewood Suites. Again, the same kind of setup that you would see in a Hyatt house. You have a kitchenette area, you have a living room area, and depending on the location, 1 or 2 bedrooms. So at times, with the right, finding the right one, you know, it really feels like you have your own apartment where you can cook, you can relax, you can have comfortable bedding for most of your family if you're depending on the size. For us, you know, it's you know, our girls and the adults and the baby might get the queen size beds, but then my son, he's a trooper. He'll take the couch when he has to.
I actually wanted to go back to Hyatt. There's one other type of room or hotel chain that we stayed at with Hyatt, and that was Hyatt Regency. And this worked out really well for us. Actually, earlier this year, we were going to a conference. It was a homeschool conference, and so we ended up being able to get a suite that was 2 rooms. But the cool thing about it was a bedroom with 2 queen-size beds and a bathroom. And then it was like this big, I don't know what they called it, but it was a suite. And it had this huge conference table that could seat 6 or 8 people. and then it had a few seats at an island. Now the kitchen was majorly lacking in what it offered, but it had a full-size fridge, and so between that and our Instant Pot, we were good to go.
Yep.
And then it had a big couch that did pull out into a sofa or a sofa sleeper, and then it was big enough that two of our kids slept on the other L part of the couch next to the sofa bed, and that definitely would have been big enough also for an air mattress. So for a travel trip like that, that worked out really well for our family. And I believe we brought an air mattress, but we didn't need it on that trip as well. So those are probably our top favorites. Some others we've stayed at are Embassy Suites. We really like Embassy Suites. They're always really nice, but we find that the price is a lot higher, and the point game, what we have seen, has not been quite as worth it for us.
Well, let's step into that just for a minute. I think everybody's going to want to choose their own favorite hotel chain or whatever, and I think there's really something that's great about each one of them. It's a benefit to kind of commit to a point game within one of the chains. We chose Hyatt primarily because of it. We also have the Chase Sapphire card, which has a very generous point exchange for Hyatt hotels. So we both get our Hyatt points when we book it, as well as the points that we accrue from our Chase. I'm sure Marriott has their own ones as well, and that I think that the point isn't so like you're gonna have to look at what works best for you and what hotel chain you might like the best. But then once you do decide on it, then kind of making sure that you're optimizing the points and the credit cards that you're using to book those hotels and other travel as well.
Yeah,
So,
for example, too, when we have work travel, we will try as much as possible to stay at a Hyatt, so that increases our bonus points, and also they count how many nights you stay in a year, and then they kind of advance you to a higher tier with that. And we have just found that it's a pretty big force multiplier to enter into playing the points game by being mindful of using that specific Chase Sapphire credit card for specific types of purchases, just like we do with our Costco credit card when we're using gas. It helps us to be able to do more of what we want to do, and that's travel and go places with the children without it hurting our pocketbook as much as it otherwise would.
yeah, but to stay focused on places to stay, I think we'll move on. We may have another video at sometime in the future about that specifically, the point game when it comes to travel. So the next kind of place that you could stay if hotels are outrageous, if they're how they're everyone knows that they're very seasonal. It's like, oh, there's a concert in town and Garth Brooks is playing, so it's sold out all the hotel rooms. One of your other options then is to look at Airbnb, which can suffer from the same situation, but we wanted to talk about Airbnb because I don't think everyone is really comfortable with it. How do you go about booking? What do you look for? What are some things like some red flags that you might notice? And then what's the best way to get the best price? So I'll let you kick off, the Airbnb.
Yeah,
discussion.
and truly our experience with Airbnb is we have a house that we rent out on Airbnb, and we have rented probably over 100 separate Airbnbs. So we are just really familiar with them. First and foremost, when we're looking at where are we going to stay and what are the features we're looking for, is we'll stop and talk about what's the intention of the trip, right? It's very different, the intention of the trip, if we're going to Detroit to see historic churches versus going to Florida in January just to soak up some sun. And so that's going to really change how we're filtering for looking at a place as well. Is it a place that we just need to crash and then go all day long somewhere else? Or is it a place that we want to go there and just really recharge our batteries and be able to just sit by the pool for a couple days?
Or maybe you need to get some work hours in, and that's just the way you're a remote worker, and while you are planning this trip or this pilgrimage, you need to actually have a base where you can get a half hour or a half day of work in.
And that's probably our biggest when we're looking at, are we going to stay Airbnb, are we going to stay at a hotel? It's that. Is this a work trip? Is this a trip we have to work while we're there? If so, then we have to get an Airbnb where we both have a lot of meetings for work. So we need to be able to go into rooms and shut the doors. Ideally, both of us in separate rooms at the same time, while the children have a place to, just be themselves. And so when we're looking at Airbnb, some of those red flags that I'm like, ooh, not so sure about this one. I'm not necessarily reluctant to book a brand new place. I am a little cautious if it's a place that's had a lot of negative reviews. I do look for, the number of people's, except I will say we have little ones that oftentimes sleep with us. And so even though we're a family of 8, we can oftentimes fit in a place that a family of 6 could fit in. So I might search for a family of 6 and then before booking it, change it or private message them that, hey, actually we're a family of 8. And I found that that's really helped us be able to find something that's a little more affordable because I don't need a place big enough for 8 adults when I have a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old that are happy to sleep with us.
Yeah, exactly. A few other pieces, red flags that I would say is, definitely negative reviews and how recent were the negative reviews. If they're not showing a full breadth of pictures for the location, one time that we got kind of I guess caught off guard with an Airbnb booking was that there was no outside pictures of the location, and if you don't see the outside, then you're really because they don't give you the specific neighborhood that it's in. Maybe they'll give you a generalized idea of where the address is, and certain areas like you can go from a good neighborhood to a bad neighborhood pretty quickly, or it could just be that house is kind of junky on the outside compared to the rest of the houses. So trying to make sure that you see kind of the full breadth of the property. We do not rent where it's just a room. I know that some people do that, like it's a room of a house. So don't include that in our review here. It's kind of like they're renting out a room or a back shed or something. When we're looking for either full apartments or full houses altogether, and a full standalone house. And anything we're saying here for Airbnb applies to VRBO or other like services.
Another one that I found similar apartments, houses on is booking.com. That's another one you can get some good deals on depending on the neighborhood and the area. And I will say too, since that one experience we had where it was not a great neighborhood, what we like to do now is we'll narrow down to an area and it shows you like the general area of the house, and then we'll go on Google Maps Street View if it's available and kind of look around and see if we can find that exterior house, but also what does kind of that neighborhood look like it might feel like as well. So on that same note then, how do we narrow down what neighborhoods we stay in?
Yeah, and you alluded to this earlier, but there's depending on the city and the purpose that you're going for, it really should drive your decision making on what type of property you're looking for and what kind of neighborhood. I'll give you some examples where we got a Airbnb in a neighborhood intentionally for its walkability. Rita and I went to Savannah for our anniversary this last summer, and we knew that it would be quite a walk to kind of the main drag, but we knew that walk also went through a lot of the historical neighborhoods of Savannah. So we were looking forward to that as an opportunity to get out there. It was going to be early summer, it might be a little hot, but we were ready for that. So we included, weather considerations in that. And it gave us a chance to enjoy the town where we still had a car if we needed to get somewhere that was a little bit further out, but we were planning on doing a lot of walking during our stay. So on the flip side, you had brought up Detroit. Detroit, our intention was to see a lot of the beautiful churches that are around Detroit area, which often can be very far away from each other to begin with. But also, as you probably know, Detroit has gone through quite a bit of urban blight. And it is recovering quite a bit, but it isn't something where you would necessarily, even if you felt like walking that day, that you necessarily would want to trust to walk from one site to another. When we were there, it had more to do with the distance between one church and another, and there was also some places that we wanted to visit that were kind of outside of Detroit proper. So it had less to do with safety concerns, but it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind by the city that you're going to visit. And our guides will try to speak to that as far as like walkability, those kind of things. So that'll be included, but definitely something that you want to include when you're choosing your Airbnb.
So I hope this helps you figuring out where you're going to stay on your next pilgrimage. And if you have more questions, we love talking about this and sharing things that we have found to really be budget stretchers on our travels. So I hope this helps. Please like and subscribe for more from us.